Good morning at the beginning of this week, Monday. And I'd like to just look at a particular verse that we find in Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. And it says this. This is a lady called Hagar speaking. She says, "You are the God who sees me. I have now seen the one who sees me." This phrase, the God who sees me, is translated as Elroy. God Elroy. The God who sees us. Now, the context of this story is this lady called Hagar. She's like the mistress, shall we say, of Abraham. And things go wrong at home. And Abraham sends her away. And in this story, in Genesis chapter 16, Hagar is in the desert. She has a son with her, Ishmael, who's just dying. And she's just desperate. She's in a lonely and a vulnerable place. And she cries out to God, and God speaks to her, acknowledges her situation. And her response is, I realize that there's a God who sees me. When nobody else sees me, when nobody else sees the situation, the pain, the frustration I'm in, you're the God who sees me. And I chose this story this morning because I think there's some truths in that. Maybe there's some of you here listening this morning, and you feel that you are in that desert place. You're in that place where you just feel alone, you feel abandoned, where things feel like they're dying around you. And you're like, God, you see me. And God says, I see you. And this is an important truth. David in the Bible also had this understanding of the God who sees us. According to Psalm 139, verse 16, David wrote this, "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book." This idea that not only does God see us where we are now, but God also sees where we are going. That's what it means by Jehovah Roy, the God who sees us. He sees us now as we are, and he sees where we're going. And I think it's important, not just in this season, any season, to know that we are seen. You see, to be seen, to be recognized is important. We see this particularly in children who do things to get noticed, to get attention. Or my children sometimes hate it when they feel like one of the other children is getting more attention than what they feel that they should have. And it doesn't stop. We might hide it better. But even as we get older, we take it into our lives, we take it into church, this desire to be noticed. I just did a little bit of investigation and just checked out some psychology books. And one of these psychologists, a guy called Simon Thomas, said, of all our innermost human desires, nothing seems to trump that of being seen. There is something very fundamental about being acknowledged or being seen as a person. Everyone needs to know that what they say or the very fact of their being is important to somebody. The heart longs for a human embrace, for the attentive ear of a brother who shows interest in being with them and listening to what they are saying. He says psychological research has shown that when people are perpetually in situations where they are ignored, this can cause emotional pain and even physical problems. And let alone on the spiritual side, let alone the emotional and the physical side, we need to know as we start this week, whatever situation we're in, whether we feel like we're in a good place or whether we feel like we're in Hagar's situation, in the desert, desperate, lonely, overwhelmed, that we have a God who sees us. And not only does he see us, he looks at us as he sees us, and he's got eyes full of love, full of pleasure. Eyes that say, I love you. Eyes that say that I delight in you. Eyes that say, well done. So as we start this week, let us acknowledge the God who sees us. And let us hear him, the God who sees us, speaking his truth, his reality into our hearts. So I'm just going to pray. God, I thank you that you see me. You see me as I really am. Not maybe as I try to portray myself. Not maybe even as I put on my Facebook image. But you see me, and you see into the very innermost being of myself. my fears, my anticipations, my perspectives, my dreams. And you acknowledge me, and you love me, and you speak to me, and you're the God who's with me. Thank you. Amen.